Good evening and welcome to the Newshour Agenda. I'm Madhavdas G. Viewers, the Parliament saw fierce face-off today over Modi government's push to amend the Waqf Act. The bill, which was tabled by Minority Affairs Minister Kiren Rijiju and was sent to the Joint Parliamentary Committee for wider scrutiny after the Union Minister agreed to it. Rijiju earlier said that he was ready for consultation with stakeholders within the Joint House panel once it was formed. The bill proposes to bring approximately 40 amendments to the existing Waqf Act 1995. Amongst the key changes, the bill proposes allowing a non-Muslim chief executive officer and at least 2 non-Muslim members to be appointed by the state government to the Waqf boards at the state level. The bill also proposes to bring the district collector as the arbiter on whether a property is Waqf property or government land. Opposition has now slammed this government move over the proposed changes, taking the exception particularly with the non-Muslim members provision in this bill. They called it an attack on the constitution, freedom of religion and the federal system. Government, however, has countered opposition's charges, with Kiren Rijiju asserting that some people have captured Waqf boards and that this bill has been brought to give justice to ordinary Muslims.
को बांटने का काम कर रहे हैं, जोड़ने का काम नहीं कर रहे हैं। आप दुश्मन हैं मुसलमानों के, उसका सबूत ये बिल है।
ये बिल जो इंट्रोड्यूस हो रहा है, ये अध्यक्ष महोदय बहुत सोची समझी राजनीति के तहत हो रहा है। वक्फ बोर्ड में गैर मुस्लिम को शामिल करने का औचित्य क्या बनता है?
कहीं ऐसा ना हो कि जनता इन हुकूक के लिए, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन को बचाने के लिए दोबारा सड़कों पर आ जाएगी।
आप वक्फ बोर्ड की प्रॉपर्टियों को खुर्द-बुर्द कराने की जो साजिश लोग कर रहे हैं, उन साजिशों को बल देने का काम कर रहे हैं।
There was an attempt in the country that to make the country as a Hindu Rashtra, which has been rejected by the people of this country.
कहाँ से ये मुसलमान विरोधी है? कौन सा इसका कानून मुसलमान विरोधी बताता है?
इस बिल का समर्थन कीजिए, करोड़ों लोगों का दुआ मिलेगा।
You're watching the News Hour at 10, debate number 1 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
For more on this, let's go right across to our guest. Joining us, Shazia Ilmi, national spokesperson of BJP, is with us. Shalini Ali, national convener of the Muslim Rashtriya Manch, is also with us. Dr. Syed Hafiz, spokesperson of DMK, is with us. Faizan Kidwai, spokesperson of Samajwadi Party, is also joining us on the broadcast. Let me start with you first. Faizan, of course, we saw Akhilesh Yadav say that it is not appropriate to bring in non-Muslims into the Waqf board. But the argument that many will say is that since the Waqf boards also decide on what land, is with the Waqf, is not appropriate with the Waqf, isn't a better representation of different communities thereby justified, given that Waqf has such powers?
See, first of all, let me start by saying what Akhilesh ji has said very rightly, that BJP wants to bring this unconstitutional bill to please its frustrated hardcore communal supporters, maybe keeping in mind the elections, assembly elections, which will be happening in Haryana and Maharashtra. See, Madhav, I'll tell you, I heard Mr. Lallan Singh ask that how is this bill anti-Muslims? I'll tell you, on one hand, the government says that it will do away with Waqf by use, but it will allow the same provision for the Hindu endowment boards. They will be allowed to use their property the way they want. See, first of all, Madhav, this is directly against the 7th schedule, which clearly mentions that anything related to property, either it be dispute or anything, that will be sorted out by the honorable courts. The legislature has no right to interfere in this. So this bill is extremely unconstitutional. It exposes the rotting, stinking, pathetic, divisive mentality of Bharatiya Janata Party. That's all I can say.
Okay.
And apart from that, Madhav, may I just complete my point?
Quickly conclude your point.
See, if there's any religious endowment, either it be minorities or majorities, it should be and it will be managed by the community itself. No outsiders are allowed, because if you do that, then it becomes a violation of Article 14, which talks about equality before law.
Freedom of religion, bill is multiple in violation rights, of Article 25 and 14, Article 25, several such articles that are in violation when it comes to this particular provision. Shazia Ilmi, please respond to Faizan, who says that it's nothing but a blatant attempt at pushing a communal agenda, he says. Please respond to him.
In fact, In fact, the agenda has been communal in an adverse way, and the fact of the matter is that Muslims today, as an economic group, are at the lowest rung of the ladder. If you look at the NSSO survey or PLFS, you will realize that socially, educationally, and financially, Muslims are the lowest rung. We don't need just Rajadar Sachar committee to say that. But Muslims are also the richest. They are sitting on the largest land holding in India. So Muslims as a community have more land than any other community, because defense, which has got maximum land, followed by railways, they come under the government. So imagine the richest community in terms of land is also the poorest community. Now, how do you figure this out? Because of the central Waqf board, because of the 32 state boards, and the kind of corruption and nepotism that is happening on these land parcels, which are meant for betterment of the poor Muslims. If they only can enumerate how many schools, how many colleges, how many universities, how many scholarships, how much fees and allocation to fees of small children or shelter homes for the very poor, destitute women have been done by the Waqf board, I'll be very pleased. Let me tell you, let me call them out. Imagine it's a matter of great shame. All of them in the entire politics depends on discrimination against Muslim. Bichara Garib Musalman. But Musalman is very amir. The Muslims seem to have more money than Ambanis and Adanis and the Godreges and Tatas put together. And yet they're the poorest. Why?
Okay, I don't know if that factually adds up, but yes, I will put this question to Dr. Syed Hafiz. Dr. Syed Hafiz, you have Shazia Ilmi, the BJP spokesperson, saying that there are huge properties that come under the ambit of the Waqf. There are also sweeping powers that Section 50 of the 1995 Act gives them. It gives the power to the Waqf to decide whether a property is a Waqf property or not. Now, many would say that this is a rather invincible power that has been bestowed upon the Waqf. Why should it have such a power in the first place? And given the fact that there is so much of property available with the Waqf, and also the fact that the socio-economic indicators of Muslims are, perhaps not the highest, as Shazia Ilmi says, isn't that a paradox that needs to be resolved? And this property be more broad-based, shared more equitably amongst various members of the community. Dr. Syed Hafiz.
Yeah. So, first of all, I'd like to thank Shazia Ilmi ji for acknowledging that Muslims are suffering. They are one of the poorest group in the society. But for such a society, this government, this union government, decreases the pre-metric and the post-metric scholarship for the minority girls and the minority students. So, to uplift this society, rather than bringing an amendment in Waqf Act, they should try to improve the funds towards the minority ministry and the pre-metric, post-metric scholarship, so that the community and the girls from the community can come up. You know, the claims of the BJP in bringing up this bill and the things that have been said in the bill are totally contradictory. One hand, they say they want to bring in an administrative reform. To bring an administrative reform, you give the power to the collector. You know, it is completely a minority-owned properties. And what job will the collector have to do, and he will decide arbitrarily. And it also says that if the collector says it's a government land, it's a government land till the Waqf board goes to the higher court and proves it to be the Waqf land. It will continue to be the government land, and the government will keep using it. You know, you're talking about empowering the Muslim community, but snatching it from others. See, when you're talking about secularism and having other people coming into the Waqf board, I think this liberty should be given to all the communities. I would like to be a part of a board from another religion if this keeps continuing. And second of it, I will quote from your own sister concern in Economic Times in 2013, 16 February. Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh comes out and says, when there was a mishap in UP Kumbh Mela, Azam Khan was the organizer. The very clearly organizer says that it shouldn't have been organized by a Muslim minister, because it is an event of the Hindu minister should have handled this, so that these kind of incidents
wouldn't happen. I have many questions for all of you, but I'm going to allow Shalini Ali to come into this, because Shalini Ali, the question then becomes this. The question is, if you allow Hindus or non-Muslims into the Waqf boards, then there will be questions that come in. And in terms of administering one's own religion, there are several complicated problems then. So will this open up a Pandora's box, in a sense, is the question that Dr. Syed Hafiz is then asking. How would you respond to him, Shalini Ali?
See, firstly, let's try and acknowledge the fact that even though we are a democratic country, there are countries which are following the Shariat law, and there's nothing known as a Waqf board over there or a Waqf ministry. They have the Waqf ministry over there. So in India, as far as the minority is concerned, the government from the beginning till the end has always taken care in uploading and in uprising the minorities of the country. Now, let's come to the Waqf board amendments, or the Umeed, as what is it being said to. We all know that the Waqf board has acres and acres of land, probably the third largest landholders in India after the railways and the armed forces is the Waqf board. What all is happening in the Waqf board? Has there been any religious institutions come forward where they have made it a part of the plan of action that it should be for charity basis, educational institutions, hospitals, or even other certain things such as Musafir Khanas or orphanages? I don't see anything coming forward apart from the Waqf land being taken over by so many of these anti-social elements where they are taking hold of the Waqf property, where women who are, widows, children who are orphans, their property has been snatched away by the Waqf board and no one can do anything. The most hideous and the humorous example of the Waqf board is that they have tried to even take an archaeological site, for example, the Taj Mahal. You can't have the Waqf board think over for the entire Muslim community, saying that yes, we are there for the upliftment of the Muslim community, and yet when it comes to charities such as zakat and fitra, the Muslim community still, as what Shazia has said is correct, they seem to be the richest but are actually below poverty line, where the charity in the concept does not come into being present. So yes, it's time that the Waqf board takes charge of it. I don't see any harm where women can come forward. We only have 4 women in India who are acting as members and chairperson. We have 1 person who is a chairperson and 3 people who are members.
Okay.
So why can't we give it a chance?
Okay.
And if the government itself is saying that it's time for amendments, then why not?
You know, there are many questions that you've raised here. I'm going to just ask 2 simple questions in fact, Dr. Syed Hafiz. Dr. Syed Hafiz, the very same section 50 that I was talking about, once again being referred to. You've had bizarre situations where claims being made on Taj Mahal. In your own state, in Trichy district, there is a village where an entire village has been claimed. By some accounts, there's a temple which is, over 1.5 millennia old, which has also been claimed as being a Waqf property. When you have all these bizarre anomalies due to certain controversial provisions, should there not be a law, a change in law to resolve these? Simple question.
No, there are remedies in already existing laws. There is not that whole notion of once the Waqf board decides this property is mine doesn't become the Waqf board's property. There is always a High Court, there is always a Supreme Court where the verdicts of the Tribunal of the Waqf board have been challenged, and they have been changed when Waqf board is not doing the right job. So there is no question of all this. Article 50, 60, now I'll give you an example. There is also another angle to it.
But if there is section 50, I think I stand corrected. I may have said section 50.
Also in the eye of the
section 40, I
what?
stand corrected. But why have such a provision, sir? Is such a provision, which gives unbridled powers? And if there's a provision under any act, isn't it time for those provisions to change? Simple question.
No, every tribunal has its own powers. Then what do you say about the NGT? NGT has its own powers. Every tribunal has its own power. That is how it is.
This is the power of the
That is how law had been.
I am not on the power of the tribunal. That's a separate debate. We are first discussing
Waqf board is a tribunal. Waqf board is a tribunal power. The board is a tribunal. Waqf board is a tribunal, sir. Waqf board is a tribunal which has a set law on who the people are going to be selected. And the verdict of the tribunal is not final, for your information. It can be challenged by any other court.
Word of the tribunal is not final. Shazia Ilmi, please respond. This tribunal order can be challenged. Please respond to what is being stated by Syed Hafiz.
Again, just like they did in CAA, again, a mistruth and a falsehood is being propagated. The powers of the tribunal are far-reaching. Nobody can challenge them. In fact, it is so draconian that nobody can seek remedy. A Muslim brother or sister cannot seek remedy in court. And this is the only instance there is in all the laws in India. So it should be challenged, and with the amendment, the powers of the tribunal can be, the decisions can be challenged by the High Court and Supreme Court and other courts.
All right.
And yes, the law of the land says that revenue officers do verification of the property. Waqf law cannot be exempted from scrutiny of a revenue officer. Your property, my property is open to scrutiny by revenue officers, right? And financial audits. What is so special about Waqf land? That you allow it to become a cesspool of nepotism and corruption, and there has to be opacity. There would not be any audits. There would not be any revenue officer. And the poor person, and there's many Muslims suffering. In fact, there are many more Muslim litigants than there are Hindus. It is the bill, this amendment is only for poor Muslims and poor Muslim families. And those who support Muslims and their rights to a better life will go for amendment.
Faizan, respond to this. What's wrong with being subjective? Everything's hunky-dory and everything's in order. What's the issue if there is a survey, number one? And number two, I think Shalini has a very pertinent point. If this can be the case in several Islamic countries where they don't have this Waqf system, why is it then essential here in India? I think it's a fair question she's asking.
Madhav, I would want to expose some propaganda that these BJP people and the organizations associated with the Bharatiya Janata Party constantly talk about. First of all, Shazia is constantly talking, and a lot of BJP people are constantly talking about that the amendments will do something better for the children, for the poor, for the women, but they don't say what exactly would be the process by which they would make things better for the poor or for the women. So this is nothing but just a jumla. They have to say something.
Better representation,
so just for the sake of speaking,
there will be better representation mandated under law.
No, what do you mean by better representation? How are you going to? Women are already there in the committee members.
How many?
Are the committee members of
how many?
Waqf board?
How many?
Madhav,
what is the minimum membership of Let's get this one by one. Let's debate this one by one. How many women are minimum members in any Waqf board? Please tell me.
Madhav, they have been there. Okay, I just want to make a larger
point.
No,
you're on a point. How is it going to make it better for women? They are saying minimum 2 members will be there, women on the board. What is the minimum requirement of membership as far as the law is concerned currently in Waqf? Please tell us that.
But at least, Madhav, there is a representation of women in the Waqf board as of now.
Having a token representation
how many religious institutes, how many religious institutes, other religious institutes or trusts accommodate women? At least there are women here, and they are not actually talking only about women.
No,
see,
we are talking about Waqf representation at the moment. Certainly reforms need to be there across religions. I agree with you in principle on that.
There is no two ways about it. But Madhav, the intention is wrong.
Women in all religions is required. Since you're discussing a point, let's discuss it thread by please. You're saying it will not benefit women, and there's a counter argument to that as well, Faizan.
Now let me complete this point. This propaganda that the lady from some Manch, Rashtriya Manch or Bharatiya Janata Party, she was saying after defense and railways, Waqf board has the maximum number of properties. This is a propaganda, a lie. See, there is this research. You can cross-check that, Madhav. This is from Center for Study of Society and Secularism. This is a Mumbai-based think tank. According to that, a report which it released in 2020, titled Hindu Temples and the Assets, a case for transparency and accountability. It says Hindu trusts and institutions own approximately 8 lakh acres of land, assets worth 1.5 lakh crores, which was equivalent to 2% of Indian GDP in 2020. If you see the report that was filed by the Waqf board, the council report, it says at that time the registered property of Waqf board was 4 lakh.
Administer all Hindu properties. That's actually the interesting contrast in point. But Shalini Ali, I want you to come in on the point being made by Faizan, that the point that Waqf owns a huge amount of property or that women don't have representation in Waqf, all these points are wrong. Please respond to it very quickly.
That is exactly what I'm saying, that we have 32 Waqf boards in India and we only have 4 women that are present there as members. 1 is the chairman in Jammu Kashmir and 3 as different members. I mean, if we are going to make it a point that women have to become members and they are going to be a part of the process, then why not? What is the harm in it? Secondly, even though all the Waqf boards are there, what has happened for the upliftment of the Muslims? Why is it that my community always comes forward and brings everything down? Why is the dirty linen always washed in public? When you're talking about other religious institutions and their lands, why is it not the Hindus or the Christians or the Gurdwaras or the Sikhs coming out in the front and speaking about their affairs? Why is it that the community today is still standing and they are standing in way of progress for the country? Is it not time that we include ourselves in the mainstream? Or are we perpetually, because of a few people, keeping ourselves off stream? It's time that we give the government we give them time.
All right, reform or is this some kind of political agenda? That's essentially the debate, but perhaps parliamentarians in their wisdom will come up with something after the committee that has been mandated to look into these reforms, these amendments, will come up with, and we'll have to, of course, debate finally the draft that comes out of that particular committee. For the moment, I'd like to thank all our panelists, Shazia Ilmi, Shalini Ali, Dr. Saeed Hafiz, Faizan Kidwai. Thank you so much for joining us this evening on what's been a very interesting debate, both inside Parliament as well as inside this studio.